Tonight, we crown a champion. Washington and Lee and the University of Lynchburg square off in the ODAC Championship for the third consecutive season. One of these two teams has been present at the ODAC Championship for the last 12 years, and this will be the sixth meeting between both teams over that span. Tonight, somebody walks out with some hardware. Lynchburg, W&L, in what should be an excellent matchup. This is the third consecutive meeting between these two sides. They have split those last two meetings. Lynchburg won back in 2023. Washington and Lee won last year over Lynchburg. Both teams have won on their away pitch. But tonight, it's the Hornets, unblemished on their home turf, that come in and try and keep the momentum rolling in the 2025 campaign. Meanwhile, Washington and Lee fresh off a big victory in the semifinal over the Hampton-Sydney Tigers. Hello and welcome into the Hill City here on Schellenberger Field. I'm Joe Brennan, joined alongside my good friends and partners Evan Gates and Kevin Nestor. Gentlemen, these are two teams that are quite familiar with one another, with a deep-rooted history that has really extended into postseason and beyond.
Well, you definitely feel like coming into this game, there's going to be an important sign for this Lynchburg team, and it's about striking early. Their defense is going to handle business as they've done the entire year. This Lynchburg team has a different component to its identity this year, and it's scoring at a high rate. You got to feel confident as a Hornets fan.
With that being said, let's take a look at the numbers coming into today's matchup on what these two teams have done over the season. Obviously, the offensive numbers jump out on Lynchburg's side. It's a Hornet team that has already set a program record for most goals scored in a single season, and if the year ended right now, they'd also have the least amount of goals scored against them in a single season. Kevin, can you tell us about what has made this Lynchburg team so explosive this season?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been their ability to do it by committee. I mean, they've got so many players involved in so many different facets of the game. Defensively, I mean, they got that veteran back line that we always mention when we broadcast one of these games. They've been relying on them, but it's been the offense by committee that's done an excellent job for Lynchburg this season.
Meanwhile, Evan, it's a Washington and Lee team that had somewhat of a slow start out of the gates, very similar to last year. But like last year, extremely hot in the back half of the season.
Well, it's easy to have a tough start to the season when you're playing the teams that W&L has played, because they are really facing those opponents that are on the national scale. And so you get to ODAC play, there are no surprises. But obviously this Lynchburg team stands in your way today, and you feel like this is going to have an NCAA tournament feel.
With that, there's a whole lot of people that you want to focus on in this game. For Lynchburg, you've had a plethora of goal scorers this season, but the man leading through the end of the regular season and two postseason contests, none other than the sophomore Sean DiLorenzo.
Yeah, DiLorenzo, he's been a guy that's just added a spark for this team. He comes in, leads the team in goals, and we talk about doing it by committee, but he's been the guy that they look for, especially in those doorstep opportunities. He's been a guy that's been able to capture the moment, if you will.
Meanwhile, on the other side for Washington and Lee, this is a stout defense that also has an ability to play make, really led by Willie Hall.
Absolutely, and last year you think about the offensive metrics. You lose Wamey Agbe. You got to have a defense to make sure you don't miss a beat in this season, because you know that you're going to have attackers come up in big spots. And Willie Hall obviously in a big-time spot to continue performing all-tournament team in the past, and so he just wants to make sure that he keeps the Generals in this fight as long as they can be here on Schellenberger Field.
These two teams met in the regular season up in Lexington. It was a 2-0 final in favor of the Lynchburg Hornets. Evan, in your eyes, what does W&L need to do today to try and flip that outcome and repeat as conference champions?
You can't play into Lynchburg's playbook because the Hornets have been polished all season long, and when you look at the last two games here in this ODAC tournament, they have played the games they've wanted to play. It's possession-based. It's getting shots up. And if you allow them to do that longer here on Schellenberger Field, probably not going to get the win.
Meanwhile, Kevin, you have a Lynchburg team that is without William Casey in the starting lineup tonight. We'll hit on those starting 11 in a moment, but if you're Lynchburg, how does that change the picture of things, or does it at all?
No, it does, absolutely. Whenever you've got a guy like that missing from that back line that we talked about kind of being the staple for this team and that veteran presence, but also knowing that they do it by committee. We saw guys go in, take his place in certain games just to get those minutes so that if something like this did happen, they would be able to respond in a moment like this.
With that, we'll step aside. Starting lineups on the other side of the break. When we come back, Washington and Lee, Lynchburg in the ODAC Championship. And we welcome you back into Schellenberger Field on the campus of the University of Lynchburg. A champion will be crowned in the Hill City tonight. Washington and Lee, University of Lynchburg, full 90 coming your way on FloSports. Let's walk you through the starting lineups for both squads today. First, for the home team, the Lynchburg Hornets. Lynchburg starts with Thomas Viscuso between the pipes, and there's where you see the change in that back line. Isaac Torres, Reed Rouse, Benji Velasquez. In the midfield group of Felipe Rodriguez, Napier, Lopez Correas, Viscuso, Wiley, and the forwards, Pask and Andres Romero. Gentlemen, it should be interesting tonight to see if they decide to bring Viscuso to that back line or just entirely change the grouping on the field.
Well, Viscuso has been very seasoned throughout the year. This is the reason why you play those newcomers early in the year. You get them reps, and you feel like when there is a change, they're not that rattled.
Now we'll turn over to the Washington and Lee Generals starting 11 for the championship game. It's Joseph Arrowwood Hall. And you've got Anthony Garcia, Nick Apostolou make up that back line. The midfield grouping of Matthew Jenkins, Caden Zion, and Drac Travis, and Taha Kaba to round it out. Then Sammy Seifa alongside Buster Kuig as the two pair of forwards. Kevin, this is a W&L team that is really starting to find its stride coming into this contest. Red hot, unblemished since their Lynchburg falling back in late October.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, two things there. First of all, good job, Joe, getting through that starting lineup. Those are some tough names. I would have absolutely butchered it. Second thing is, yeah, absolutely. This Washington and Lee team looks completely different from whenever they fell in that contest that you mentioned. And I think they've kind of found their identity as the season's gone along, and especially here in the tournament. They felt really good about where they're at, and they feel really good about tonight.
Yeah, since that W&L Lynchburg regular season match, the Generals 2-0 over Bridgewater to end the regular season, and followed that up with a 1-0 victory over Randolph-Macon in the quarterfinal and a 2-0 victory at home against Hampton-Sydney in the semifinal. 3 straight shutouts. I mean, this defense is really starting to play up to the level that we're accustomed to seeing W&L play at.
Absolutely, and the offense hasn't been too poor as well. They have 6 goals that have been assisted in a row. And so you think about just connecting the dots and allowing your defense to set the table, because there are some teams out there that'll struggle to score if they don't have the shutouts. Got to make sure it's a complete game, and obviously tonight on Schellenberger Field, the team that commands both departments is going to be the one that's ODAC champs.
Meanwhile, Lynchburg, since their only loss this season on October 15th at the hands of Hampton-Sydney, they have not allowed an opposing team to score. Granted, they have scored for an opposing team back in that Eastern Mennonite quarterfinal, but aside from that, this defense has been straight nails all season long, and they have even found a different level. But again, the caveat, it should be interesting to see how this squad fares without Will Casey tonight, someone that leads this squad in minutes. Him and Velasquez are really the 2 main heartbeats on that Lynchburg defense.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think whenever you look at the last game out against Bridgewater, we talked about this Lynchburg team. They kind of hit a gear right before the postseason started, and then it seemed like they found another gear. So it's going to be interesting to see how they find it. I think with the Casey injury for them, it might actually play into their favor a little bit. Throw a little game plan wrinkle in there that W&L might not be expecting.
Well, the stage is set, a full 90 minutes. That shouldn't disappoint. Keaton Napier sends it back to Viscuso, who momentarily looks like he's moving back to Casey's role tonight.
And it's going to be interesting because even the first 5 minutes won't tell the full story. It's going to be a lot of wrinkles to the picture. But Lynchburg hopes that it's not too much of a focus on its back line and that they're advancing into the attacking third.
I mean, this place is rocking. You can already feel the intensity. You got some W&L fans tonight wearing a drum, making some noise. Lynchburg, obviously, with the student section on the far side of the track, can bring energy from wherever you're in on Schellenberger Field.
Gotta love that everybody's on their feet for the Generals as well. We've played about 20 seconds and you're already seeing people rise up, because that's the type of game this is. Yes, both of these teams are in a great spot to continue their season when you look at the national implications, but it means so much to have that pride to be ODAC champs and start the postseason march on the right foot.
Yeah, when you talk about a game that really couldn't be more 50-50, it's this one right here. If you want to go recent history, the last 5 games between these two, 2-2-1 both ways. It's exactly 500. So it's exactly what you want for a conference championship game.
Well, what a 2-year stint it has been for Washington and Lee's head coach Shabazz. 2 years, 2 ODAC title appearances. Last year, obviously, brought home some hardware, and they made an even deeper push all the way to the NCAA Final Four. But he really stressed, when I got the chance to talk to him earlier this week, that this is a team that is not built by their legacy. It's a new year. They didn't want to be riding high from a year ago, and really had a clean slate to start the season as Viscuso watches this one roll out of play. And I think this squad has done an excellent job of it, and you really need to give them a nod of your cap after what they were able to do winless through their first 5 games and the response since then.
Well, I think that's what makes good teams great, right? Whenever you have that pedigree and the history that W&L has, but you don't really care about that once a new slate gets started. You're focused on what's now for your team, and they've been a perfect example of that, and that's why for so long this team has been so good.
And Joe, you think about how strong this conference is. You can't get complacent because the middle of the standings, even looking at those high flyers through the regular season, Hampton-Sydney and Bridgewater making those semifinal appearances, if you're waiting around, you're going to get beat, and this W&L team realizes they still got a lot of firepower on the sideline.
For those that somehow, some way aren't quite familiar with either of these teams at this stage of the season, Washington and Lee opened up with a 5-game non-conference gauntlet, playing Emory, Oglethorpe, Covenant College, Mary Washington, and Catholic. Across those 3 games, they went 0-2-3, but since then, they have been scorching hot, which we have continued to talk about, and we most likely will for the remainder of the night. This is, when you start the season, you hope this is when you're playing your best brand of ball, and I think for both of these sides, that's more than evident.
And how many teams can say that, hey, you started on a 5-game winless streak, and that's what propelled us to play good soccer the rest of the season. Normally, you want to have a win streak earlier to get hot, but the level of competition, former national champs, you're going to recognize, hey, let's learn a little bit about ourselves and be ready for an easier slate down the road.
And I love the way you put that, because this isn't just a conference championship. This is a clash between two of the best teams in the country. Both of these teams, they have higher expectations than just a conference championship, but it starts here tonight.
These are certainly two titans. And if you go back a week ago, Washington and Lee was right on the bubble. If you look at last year's MPI, the 32nd ranked team, or 33rd ranked team, pardon me, was the last one to get in for an at-large bid. Washington and Lee, as of last week, was 31, right teetering on that line. You never know how many bid stealers there are going to be. It really felt like they needed to beat Hampton-Sydney, who was ranked at 17th in the MPI at the time when those two teams played. And now you feel like you have somewhat of a sense of security, but you really want to control your own destiny and not leave it up to the committee.
And there's no doubt that Hampton-Sydney was a stout opponent throughout the year, but you know if you're W&L that you could have an advantage in that game. And in both of those semifinal games, I think what's most impressive is both of these teams left no doubt. They outshoot their opponents, got off to those leads, and never looked back. And you realize when you have an even matchup like this, one goal might be enough for us to see a game winner.
Well, when they played Hampton-Sydney during the regular season, back on October 1st, it was a 1-1 draw in Lexington. And I think that even more so goes to show the strides that this team has made. That's a 2-goal flip.
What's so interesting, too, you think about regular season matchups versus the postseason. It's not like other sports where you're trying to hide your playbook for later on. You know, your style is what it is, and that identity can only grow throughout the year. And so Washington and Lee just had that confidence to continue moving forward. They're getting contributions from almost some of the unlikely contributors, even their defenders getting in on the goal scoring, and that is what has made them such a complete club here in the last few years.
And we're talking about, stats and teams, but, man, what I'm feeling tonight is the energy, and it just sets up like it's a heavyweight battle. Like Joe said, two titans in the country. When you come out here Saturday night under the lights, prime time, fans packed out, this is awesome. The energy at Schellenberg tonight is unfathomable.
Washington and Lee with a throw-in on the near side. It'll be Buster Kuwig looking to launch it deep. Adder pops it out. Corralled by the Generals. Bodies on the interior. The shot is through. Washington and Lee strikes first. It's Willie Hall, the man we highlighted in the open. And he steps up to the occasion 6 minutes and 18 seconds into the affair.
Well, you just watch this Lynchburg back line, and it's so tricky to stay on sides if you're the Generals because you recognize a ricochet and you might be in the wrong part of the field. W&L had no issue getting in on the action and scoring first in this contest. All of a sudden, like we just said earlier, yes, one goal might be enough to win this game, but now if you're Lynchburg, you hope that's not the script.
Yeah, absolutely. And for W&L, Willie Hall has been a guy who has just been kind of like an energy producer for this team. When they look at him, whenever things start to lull on their offensive end, obviously another goal for him there, but it's things like, the passing that he can find, the teammates that he can get open. It's things like that really go unseen. Obviously, we're going to talk about that one being a goal.
You think about this Hornets team as well, and as they have continued to adventure throughout this year, they haven't allowed more than 2 goals in a game. You think about allowing one here in the first 10 minutes. How much is that going to change up Coach Yeager's game plan?
That was one that just seemed like it got away from Lynchburg. Good positioning by the defenseman.
And if you want to turn that around, W&L, they got to feel really good about striking earlier. They also have not allowed more than 2 goals in the season. So you got to feel like for them to come out, set the tone early. You mentioned it, less than 7 minutes into this game, they strike first, and we know how good that defense is. It's got to give them a lot of confidence and momentum throughout the remainder of this game.
Willie Hall, the senior defenseman out of Richmond, Virginia, the St. Christopher's School product that is one of the powerhouses in Eastern Virginia. That team headed to their state championship contest this weekend after a late 4-3, 4-goal comeback over their rival high school Collegiate.
Yeah, listen to this
comeback.
Listen to this St. Christopher's alum over here.
You can let the people think I did my research.
I was going to say, that's pretty knowledgeable.
Corralled by Joseph. He'll roll it out near side.
Tell you, Joe, you hope it's not something like a 3 or 4 goal swing in this contest, but you recognize the way that these two teams respond throughout the year. It's probably not going to be a 2-goal deficit either way. And so while Lynchburg is down, it's all about making sure you don't overcorrect and you make sure that you just stay true to your identity.
One thing I do want to point out, just because we've harped on it throughout the Open, is the Will Casey injury. You don't want to have the feeling that had so much of an impact on the goal being scored right there because it's on the opposite side of the field. Just something I feel like we should recognize. I feel like Viscuso this season, when he's been in that spot, has done an excellent job of filling in that center back role.
And it's tricky because, there are going to be a lot of components going into that. Will Casey's size will definitely help the physicality in the box, but I just think that was an unfortunate bounce, and W&L was quick to capitalize on that back run because they timed it perfectly.
Generals with possession at midfield. Whistle will blow it dead, and a yellow card will be given out. That one goes against Torres. And one thing I will say, it's very crucial in this game that Washington and Lee got the first goal. It's the Lynchburg squad that when they score first, they're 13-0. Meanwhile, when their opponent scores first, 2-1-1 on the season.
You don't have a big record of a sample size either, but when you know that a team's undefeated in any way possible, that's going to be something you want to try and shy away from. And W&L right now having all the momentum. Their fans still really into this one, and we've got a lot of soccer to play.
Far side of the field, it'll be Kuig with the throw-in. This is where danger arose on the near side most recently. On the interior, a swing of the leg, but a whistle blows it dead. And Thomas Viscuso awarded a goal kick.
I really think what makes this game different from other games that we've called for the Lynchburg Hornets this season is we're going to call on Thomas Viscuso's name a lot. Washington and Lee is going to challenge him because of how good the Lynchburg defense has been. He hasn't really been tested all that much. I think tonight the Generals' offense is powerful enough, and we're going to see what he's really made of.
Yeah, it was a Lynchburg team that held EMU and Bridgewater to just 2 shots in the quarter and semifinal. Meanwhile, do not expect that from this W&L team. A whole lot of offensive firepower, and they can do so by committee. And oftentimes, when you have a squad that has 10 guys that can really light it up and score, that's going to be more effective than one guy that can find those same numbers.
As those matches, bad thought, Viscuso going down to the turf, but as these matches get a little bit more difficult in caliber of opponent, you're going to see fewer shots, and every single shot will matter. These two teams knotted up at 10 shots apiece in the regular season meeting, and so it's just about capitalizing on those chances. That's why the Generals' first goal was so crucial.
I'll tell you, Joe, what I can't get over is this marching band feel that we have over here to our right. The W&L supporters are here. They got the blowhorns, the drums like you mentioned, the hand clappers. I mean, the cowbells, they are into it.
Yeah, Schellenberger Field, typically with a whole lot of energy. And what's so great about the ODAC is you get all these schools that are so bunched together that you oftentimes get a whole lot of fans coming in on the road. I mean, we had a full-on tailgate this afternoon with Shenandoah Field Hockey coming out and supporting. But this W&L squad, or their fans rather, have brought more noise to Schellenberger than we've heard any other opposing squad bring into the field.
And be glad that it's not grass out there, because Shelley has been a busy set of busy rectangle, put it at that, throughout the day because the Field Hockey ODAC Championship earlier today, 2 rematches of last year's ODAC Championships, and you can just tell as Lynchburg was able to swing the plot in that first game, it means something when you're playing the same team year after year. You know, these two teams are no strangers, and so it just goes into the emotion of it all.
Such a treat to be able to host 2 FloSports for Championship Saturday. And what's so funny, as you mentioned, it's the 3rd consecutive year of the 2 matchups that we're seeing on Schellenberger with Lynchburg and Shenandoah and Washington and Lee and Lynchburg. And in 2023, Lynchburg won both. 2024, Lynchburg lost both. If you're a Lynchburg fan, you hope that history repeats itself.
Well, you're 1/2 of the way there.
Nevertheless, it's going to be an uphill battle tonight after Washington and Lee's Willie Hall struck first in the 7th minute. Popped up by Rouse. Rodriguez keeps it in the air. Charging in, Keaton Napier plays it forward. And then redirected after a collision at midfield between Matthew Jenkins and Lopez Correas.
And Joe, you talk about how much of a privilege it is to be able to host these tournaments. And was running into a fan earlier and was talking about the broadcast and things like that. And we can only ride this Lynchburg team as far as it'll take us, right? That's what I tell them. We get lucky to do this just because of how good these teams are. And they show up each and every time they go out on the pitch.
Long ball entered into the box. A header by Viscuso. He's saying it went off a hand. Nevertheless, Viscuso will have the goal kick.
Tell you what, Joe, you think about early in this game, these are 2 teams that have dominated possession throughout the season. I don't think they are necessarily holding back and just trying to pass the ball around because we've seen these advances and the number of set pieces that just cruise right down the field. I think both of these teams are really attack-minded early in this contest.
And that's for good reason, right, Evan? I mean, when you've got teams that have the firepower that these offenses have, I mean, why not? That's got to be your game plan. You know how good your defenses are, but you don't want to get tested.
Hornets will charge forward as Keaton Napier sets it down on the G of Lynchburg script at midfield. Near side, Reed Rouse entered into the box. Bodies come charging in. Torres plays it back. Here comes Pask looking to go. The centering feed. Oh, my goodness. Just a hair wide right. It looked like he was shooting for a streaking Chris Wiley, but that one might have gone in on its own.
Well, as you look at this replay, just watch the defenders that are all behind the ball. They're out of that position, and if you have a Hornets attacker right there on the line, it's probably knotted up at 1 apiece right now.
Will Joseph across midfield. Off the head of Kuig. The speedy Torres tracks it down over for Viscuso, who will launch it to the far side of the field. Evan Pask fighting for positioning with Zion. Played out of bounds and Generals maintain possession.
Think about these throws for W&L. You see everybody moving forward. Not only is it giving you more opportunities, but it's controlling the pace of this game. And so for all that quick running and the constant sprinting that you have from your wingers, you have to slow down and set up shop.
Off the back of the head of Pask into the breadbasket for Viscuso. You know, obviously that first goal is going to be a big one no matter what contest you're watching in this kind of scenario, just to have the ability to sit in the driver's seat early. But the magic number for Lynchburg this season has been 2. Only one occasion where they have allowed multiple goals this year. And in that same vein, when they've scored 2, every time they've walked out with a victory.
And how can you get to 2 in this game knowing that it's a Generals defense that has seen so many of your contributors year after year? Think about the number of veterans that are still in the mix. And granted, Lynchburg's attack looks a lot different with Monzi Shalita, Zach Whelan all gone. We've talked about the departures throughout the year, but you feel like you need a score in this first half. Don't wait and try to bail your attack out later in this game.
The ability for both of these teams to regroup after losing so much talent, especially on the offensive end for each respective side, and make their way back to the championship, especially in a year where the ODAC has been arguably the best we've seen in recent memory. For them to do it once again, I mean, it's so impressive and such a testament to not only just the coaching staffs, but the culture surrounding these two programs.
You know, I talked about it earlier. It wasn't necessarily a very close call for whether or not these teams would get to the championship, but if you looked at it at the end of September, you're probably saying, we don't know who's going to be in that final game, but it's because these two teams are consistent in conference play, and when things get important, they're ready to go.
It was a great year from Virginia Wesleyan, Bridgewater, Hampton, Sydney, and even if you're looking towards the middle or the bottom of the standings, those teams only keep getting better and better as we move along. The level of play is exponentially rising in the Old Dominion Athletic Conference.
Yeah, that was something. You know, we talked about parity all season long. We were so excited to maybe see something different, right? Here we are, at the end of the season, Washington and Lee and Lynchburg playing for the title.
I mean, and that's not saying that we're Lynchburg guys and you're hoping that it's Lynchburg and somebody else. I mean, all season long we're thinking, you know, there's a really good shot. It could be Bridgewater and Virginia Wesleyan, two teams that have not made it to the championship in such a long time, and that is because one of these two teams have been here every single year since 2013.
Yeah, and it's the same deal with Hampton and Sydney. I mean, they started off the conference slate on fire. They beat this Lynchburg team, and you're like, okay, we got to look out for this team as well. It's really a 5-horse race about midway through conference play. Then you start to see the teams that we come to expect, the ones you refer to as Titans, stand out.
Tell you what, though, when you look at Lynchburg this year, the one thing that has been so sure from this coaching staff is that every game, it feels like it's matched the expectation. And even in that lone loss against Hampton Sydney, they're saying, you know what, we're not necessarily opposed to having one at this stage of the season.
Here's a critical set piece for Lynchburg. It'll be Rodriguez taking the free kick. Felipe winds and fires on a line drive and a brilliant header to get it out of trouble. That one looked like it had a chance to slot through, but it's, once again, Buster Kuwig, who we've said time and time again through the first 19 minutes and 20 seconds.
You got to just be ready to get it out of the way. Don't worry about allowing that ball to linger in the box, because the longer it does, Lynchburg's physicality will show up.
Whistle will stop play. We'll see what the call is. Away from the ball in the goal area. Now Rodriguez ready to send it deep. Off the outside netting. Lynchburg's side of the stadium. Thought they had it for a second. A little bit of a pop there.
It's easy to think. I mean, you look down the line here, you'll see it from this shot. It almost gives you an optical illusion.
It was the right net, just the wrong side of it.
You're going to get in a little Al Michaels trouble there, calling optical illusions. Nevertheless, Keaton Napier's header results in a goal kick. That's sent deep from Joseph. Reed Rouse near sideline. Beautiful ball deposited down, but rolls out of play.
And what W&L has done so well early in this game is limiting the number of runs that Lynchburg's attackers have had, because we've seen their opportunities. They've mostly been set pieces where you're parking the bus and trying to insert the ball. Lynchburg's dominated opponents throughout this year through that up-tempo style, constantly getting down the field, and they haven't had it yet.
Yeah, that's absolutely been the area where we've kind of highlighted Lynchburg, right? When they get those transition opportunities and they're passing back and forth, and they get that moment where it goes wide open for them. W&L doing a great job so far shutting that down.
These are two stout defenses that have done an excellent job, especially towards the latter part of the year. But you can't forget about the offense either, especially this Lynchburg group that has scored an astounding 58 goals this season, which is impressive in itself. But, you know, after losing Figueroa and Robles and Acosta, Shalita, Whelan, the names go on and on and on, and they scored 32 last year.
Isn't that crazy to think that, when you look at expectations, you're just hoping to match what that team had in the past. And not only have they done that, but they have accelerated with so many of these returners.
And Yeager said, I've been really impressed by what our defense has done, but you expected it a little bit. I mean, they had the same number of shutouts that they did a year ago. Granted, it ties the second most in program history, and it's 2 away from tying first, but I don't think anybody saw this kind of offensive production coming. Granted, you do have to take it somewhat with a grain of salt because there were a couple of 9-0 victories. But with that, I mean, you took care of business when you needed to.
Yeah, but I think outside of that, it's just been the ability to do it by committee, and we've talked about that quite a bit. We highlighted DiLorenzo earlier with 9, but then you look down the list, 6, 4, 4, 4, 5, 5. I mean, it's been a by committee effort, and this team is really – they've kind of fit that narrative that they talked about earlier this season to get everyone involved.
The postseason for Lynchburg has really been all about the first years on the offensive end. Viscuso, Lopez Correas, Andres Romero, Cruz. I mean, these guys have been unbelievable for Lynchburg and really keystone pieces in the offensive group.
And that represents the vision for the future because while this team is good this year, Coach Yeager has a lot of expectation for what's to come. And that's the reason why when you look at the stat of 14 Hornets having multiple goals this year, you realize you lose a few up front. You're not necessarily having to change your trademark style of play.
And it's wild how next year will be a new set of players to replace, especially on Lynchburg. I mean, you basically flip the sides of the field where you lose Viscuso, you lose Velasquez, you lose Rouse, you lose Napier. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Meanwhile, on the offensive end, I don't think you lose anybody.
Isn't it extra incentive, too, when you know that those players are going? It might help your postseason play, and I think we certainly saw it last year when Lynchburg broke through with that first-round victory in the NCAA tournament. They're saying, all right, this might be the last chapter with this group. Let's go out there and end on a bang. And so for this Lynchburg team this year, got to have that same incentive.
And in the same vein, it's also a Washington and Lee team that has exceptional balance. You've got 3 seniors, 3 freshmen in the starting lineup tonight. It is a very, very well-balanced team, and Coach Shabazz talked a whole lot about the ability for this group as a collective to take that step up, and everybody as a committee really continue to progress and develop their games. Here's a contest for Viscuso. A diving save from the veteran keeper. But as that whole group, this new wave of athletes really needing to take that next level, he said they've all done an extraordinary job of what he called sitting in the driver's seat and getting behind the wheel of running this year's team. And it's been a senior class that has done an extraordinary job of putting last year in the past and focusing on the 2025 campaign. Napier, a header to get it out of the box. A whistle on Washington and Lee.
And, Joe, just on that point, I mean, the senior class, they've been so involved. I mean, you can tell on the field, obviously, these guys have a fun time, but you run into this team outside just going around campus, and they're always involved with the first years, just kind of getting them acclimated. They've done such a great job of just being leaders off the field as well.
Viscuso feeling a little bit of pressure, has to get it away. Towards midfield for Lopez Correas. Sauce is over for Reed Rouse. Quick dish to Andres Romero, trying to play it back to him. Now Rodriguez looks to turn, reverses the field for Torres. The speedster with a brilliant touch up ahead for Keaton Napier. Charging out wide, it's Evan Pask. His centering pass deflected away. Torres will possess and maintain. Now Pask looking towards the middle of the field. Finds Rodriguez. He'll strike it from deep. Rodriguez far left.
I love the play on the far side from Evan Pask because he's proving that he is not afraid to hold on to the ball. Sometimes you feel like you got to force a pass trying to get down the field, but when you see this, even a shot from far away, That's going to change the goalkeeper's line of sight a little bit. You feel like you start trying to just chomp down on those shot opportunities as the half comes to a close.
Yeah, and that whole possession setup. Joe mentioned Viscuso in goal was kind of controlling that possession. Felt a little bit of pressure. And then you see everyone get involved. The passing, it was crisp. Getting the ball down the field and setting up a couple of opportunities for the Hornet offense. It looks like they've settled in just a little bit. Be interesting to see what kind of presence they come offensively for the rest of this half.
Oh, my goodness. Benjamin Velasquez moving like a freight train. Went right into the chest of Seifa. This is going to be a physical brand of soccer tonight. You just know that the intensity is only going to continue to rise as we move along.
I think that's why Lynchburg needs the goal sooner rather than later.
Beautiful through ball for Lopez Correas. Once again for Chris Wiley with the left foot. Centering feed. Andres Romero can't capitalize. Had it right on the doorstep, but a smidge out of reach.
The passing there, absolutely clinical. You'll see it on your screen here. The feed, almost perfect.
It looked like he just barely mistimed it. With that, we'll have a couple of substitutions for the Hornets. Rodriguez and Wiley to the sideline. Colby Wilson and Massonet in for the Hornets.
Have you noticed with those crosses, too, how low to the ground the Hornets are keeping the ball as they go in transition? They're not allowing these defenders to take away any airspace, and that's why you're seeing some of these connections.
Yeah, the scouting report doesn't lie, right? You talk about how good this W&L team is at just getting bodies in passing lanes, being able to kind of deflect those passes a little bit. Like you said, Lynchburg keeping the ball low to the ground, making sure they're crisp with every operation on the field. And they've done a great job so far.
Evan, what stood out to you through a little bit over the halfway mark of the opening 45?
I don't think Lynchburg looks much different than what we've expected throughout the season. And granted, you're frustrated that that goal is up on the board, but if you continue those attacking sequences, you got to feel like the goal is going to come. And as we said, another newcomer, Andres Romero, right there in the moment. Just got to make sure you don't get rattled and recognize you've done it all season long. Just put a punctuation mark here in this championship game.
Ricardo Sanchez entering the contest for Washington and Lee. He'll take the place, of Taha Kaba. Another throw-in for the Generals. Massonet charges in, a header, and we'll try it once more. Kuig, a short one. Matthew Jenkins controls in the far corner, back up for Kuig, and rolls out of play. If you couldn't figure it out tonight, Washington and Lee in the all-blue kits. Lynchburg sporting the all-blacks with red trim and white letters and numbers. As there you see our man with the drum tonight. He has been quite active, and you can imagine he'll continue to stay that way. Whole lot of fun tonight under the lights in the Hill City.
There's been a lot to celebrate for the Generals fans, and I think they recognize they needed that goal early. If Lynchburg demonstrates and dominates their style, it would be a long night for W&L.
Played up for Torres. Chips into the interior. Colby Wilson takes a swing. Too high and far to the right.
Lynchburg, like you said, Evan, they're starting to kind of mount that pressure against Washington and Lee's defense. They're getting some good looks here, especially in transition. I think if they continue to find that fast-paced offense, that's what they've been accustomed to all season. You're seeing glimpses of it working out here. Haven't found a goal yet, but like you said, it's only a matter of time if you continue to have those looks.
Coach Lumumba Shabazz actually just pointed to the crowd of W&L and said, let's just quiet things down for a minute because I think they're having such a tough time getting that communication to their players. And I think you saw in some of those sequences in the box, the defenders just looking a little awkward in those clearances, and Lynchburg almost took advantage.
All right, gentlemen, well, I have a moment. I got a little bit of ODAC trivia for you two. Lynchburg and Washington and Lee, first and fourth all-time for total championships. Lynchburg with 19, W&L with 8. Who is 2 and 3?
Goodness. You got to think I'm gonna go out there and say Virginia Wesleyan's in there.
That is correct. They're number 2 with 10 championships.
I'll try Bridgewater for 3.
Bridgewater is not the answer that we are looking for. It is Roanoke with 9.
And that's just to show the strength of the schedule, because Roanoke hasn't even been in our conversation yet today talking about teams at the top of the ODAC, and there have been other clubs that have dominated in the past.
Reed Rouse trying to contest, poked away by Massonet. And we talked so much about these two teams having a run in the championship since 2013. Virginia Wesleyan was the most recent champion before one of these two teams were not in attendance. That was a Virginia Wesleyan victory over Randolph, and the year before that in 2012, Roanoke over Virginia Wesleyan.
Well, it's translated to the women's game as well. W&L and Virginia Wesleyan playing for that women's title today, and you just recognize, the culture can really translate around campus, and that's why Coach Yeager and company have been so successful. As they got to that championship in 2010, the women's team won the championship in 2014, and a lot of that success has helped all these folks out now.
And obviously, that's men's soccer slate, but it kind of feels like that was a time period where these two programs kind of asserted themselves at the top of a lot of standings across all sports in the Old Dominion Athletic Conference.
Ball still in the air. Had a chance there momentarily. Heading to the corner. Sanchez earns a corner kick.
That was a critical touch from Massonet by the goal line, because if he doesn't get that clearance, that little tap away, W&L is right on the doorstep.
And it's so interesting, Gates. We talked about Lynchburg on the other side, how they had opportunities offensively, and then all of a sudden, it's like at the drop of a dime, W&L has been the one applying pressure for the last 5 minutes or so on their offensive end.
Willie Hall with a corner. High arcing towards the far post, off the head of Anthony Correcchia. Bruno Real Silva enters the contest for Andres Romero for the Lynchburg Hornets. Just under 12 minutes remaining in our opening half of action. Both teams dead even with 5 shots apiece, but 3 have been on target for the Generals. Lynchburg still searching for their first one on the cage.
They've had some sequences where you feel like, wow, the Hornets might have gathered better opportunities, but they just haven't had the shot to come from it. Of course, thinking about Andres Romero in that one sequence right on the goal line.
Seifa down the near sideline, contested by Rouse. Double team comes, tries to drop it off for Apostolou, and shot out by Massonet. This will be a throw-in now for Washington and Lee. General struck first. Willie Hall with the sole goal of tonight's affair thus far. Came on a throw-in in a very similar spot that it is now. Long toss. Popped back towards the edge of the 18. Still loose. Tracked down by Travis. Pass with some physical defense. He thought he earned possession. No whistle. But Paz still unhappy.
These little 50-50 balls that we see throughout the game, and obviously challenges like that one, they can be so crucial, because now you're seeing these set pieces between two teams that have just dominated with those opportunities throughout the year. W&L going to try and put this ball right in the breadbasket.
Off one hop, out of play, and a corner kick awaiting for the Generals.
I think if you're Lynchburg, you need to start that counterattack sooner rather than later, because the longer that the Generals just post up on the attacking third side of the field, they're going to get one or two to fall throughout the contest. Saw it in the first 6 minutes.
It's Sanchez from the near side corner. Viscuso with a punch out. And the Generals maintain possession. You were exactly right, Kevin. We certainly have called Viscuso's name more so than throughout the season. Rouse clears it towards midfield. Zion on a beat. Has it taken away from Colby Wilson. Cuts back to the middle of the field. Dishes it off for Napier. He'll reverse it for Torres. Keeps it alive after a whole lot of juice behind that pass. And give it to the distributor. Viscuso's pass. Sent back. Torres fighting for positioning. Viscuso for Rouse. Viscuso looking to the end line for Evan Pask. Those two can't connect.
And I don't mind the option for the Hornets to make those runs a little more vertical, because instead of trying to go well out wide and win that one-on-one battle, Lynchburg trying to converge in the box, and you got to feel like if there's a deflection the wrong way, they might have a big-time shot impending.
Fresh legs for the Hornets as Lopez Correas and Pask head to the sideline. Isaac Cruz alongside the Lynchburg leader in goals this season, Sean DiLorenzo, enter the affair.
And I think as this game progresses, you're going to start to see a little bit more vertical approach from both teams, just because we're starting to see those one-on-one battles become so physical on both sides of the field. You're going to have to look out front.
It feels like if it comes, the next goal will be a decisive factor. If you're Lynchburg and you can tie this one up, you're right back into this. And we've seen Lynchburg all season long, after they find one, that offense has their confidence level find another gear. Meanwhile, if you go down 0-2, Lynchburg's confidence certainly not going to be where you'd like it to if you're Yeager and company. Meanwhile, Washington and Lee, you are in firm control in that driver's seat with a defense that you sport.
Doesn't feel like anything's been decided yet, and still a lot of time on the scoreboard, but Lynchburg has to continue to use this aggression that we've seen in the midfield.
Ball sent out wide at midfield. Crafty footwork to create open space, but Keaton Napier read it all the way. Viscuso, hold your breath. Nearly an own goal.
Well, it's not the most comforting sign for a coaching staff, but you do recognize that you've got the keeper in the back to try and right the ship. And I think what's been so special about the Hornets this year is they don't get rattled by any signs of the opponent taking over. I mean, W&L scored in the first 10 minutes, and Lynchburg still looks like that Hornets team that we've seen all year.
Isaac Cruz with a touch back to Rouse. A little bit of a two-man game as they find Massonet. Stutter step and a dish over for Velasquez. Matthew Viscuso at midfield. Poor touch from Wilson. All the way out of play. 5:20 to go in the opening 45. Two more substitutions, make it 3. Coming in at the last minute for the Generals. Trey Peterson enters the affair alongside. I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm going to try this one. We don't have a phonetic spelling in the pronunciation guide. Justin Checaciccio. I'll call him Justin for the remainder of tonight.
That's right.
Sicanicio.
I mean, that's about as tough as it gets. And we've got some tricky ones tonight.
That's when you know, though, when you're one of those players on a roster and people start knowing those names, you're like, all right, you know, I'm a household item for this team, because if you've got the longer last names and people know it, you're probably making contributions on the field.
I'm going to try it one more time and go Kekenani Kikyo. Justin.
Chekanekio.
Yeah.
Perchance.
Thank you.
Maybe.
This is why I need you up here. We'll go with Justin.
That's right. We'll see if this college education's working out for us.
There's a big collision between Justin and Torres.
Got to tell you what, too, when you look at physicality and the student section getting into it on this one, Lynchburg has only trailed at half one game this year. And you think about going into unfamiliar territory, you got to make sure that you have the engine going to start the second half, regardless of what happens here in the last 4 minutes. Because if Lynchburg goes out there just jogging to start the second 45, you're going to be in a really tough spot.
Isaac Cruz with a takeaway laid out in front for DiLorenzo. And an errant pass sends it out of play. What could have been a transition opportunity for Lynchburg turns into Washington and Lee ball at midfield. Reed Rouse, I think he's going to be called for the handball. That'll be a free kick. About 24 out.
I don't think that's a bad call either, because, you know, a lot of people get particular about the handballs, but if it hits any part of that arm and you see it just take a different path, I think the referee is warranted to give that. And now W&L setting up shop as they have 4 generals over the ball trying to figure out who's going to take it.
At this stage of the game, you can obviously play it safe, try and chip one up, play it out wide, but in this spot, don't be surprised if Willie Hall takes a stab. Off the wall. Apostolou. Tracked down by Rouse. A header out in front for Real Silva. Nice play for Colby Wilson. Off his head, kicked out of bounds by Seifa.
That's all you have to do as well. You see the sideline just making sure he knows to advance the ball up the touchline. And ultimately, Lynchburg just trying to pin W&L in this attacking third for the final 2 minutes.
Miscommunication between Wilson and Rouse. Wilson trying to play it off his chest right back into the feet of Rouse. Ultimately rolls out of play, and Apostolou tosses us back into action. Turnover by the Generals. 90 seconds to go here in the opening half. Velasquez, near side. Real Silva comes away with it. Chipped over to Wilson. Drops it off for Rouse. Tries to evade a tackle. Cajias able to disrupt just enough. Under a minute remaining. Colby Wilson got tangled up, lost his footing. He's frustrated. Pounding the turf, now having a word with the official. But ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a physical game. There are going to be a lot of players unhappy with officiating, but it's going both ways. And all you can ask for is consistency.
And, you know, as a team out there, you just don't want to be in a spot to have to rely on that. You know, make sure you handle business in the other departments so that when those 50-50 calls are one way or the other, you live with it and you keep progressing through.
There you get another look at the contact that Wilson felt like warranted a whistle. Nevertheless, it's 1 goal scored by Washington and Lee's Willie Hall. That takes us to a 1-0 score at the intermission. Gentlemen, initial thoughts?
Feel like it's exactly what we expected in terms of possession and the aggression on both sides, but Lynchburg unfortunately had that error in the first 10 minutes. That's the difference maker. We mentioned it could be a one-goal game. Hornets are going to have to find an equalizer.
Yeah, and WNL has done a really good job of kind of controlling this game. Obviously, the pace has been up for both teams. We saw Lynchburg have a couple of opportunities, but WNL defensively has done a really good job of slowing down kind of this by-committee offense that we talked about at the top of the broadcast.
Well, 1-0 this scorecard as we head to the break. We'll be back on the other half for the next 45. And we welcome you back into the Hill City. Willie Hall struck first in the 7th minute to give Washington and Lee a 1-0 advantage. That's where we sit now entering the second half of action. Joe Brennan, Evan Gates, Kevin Esther here with you on behalf of LHSN and FloSports. Let's walk you through the numbers on paper through the first 45. Kevin, what really stood out to you?
Really, I think it was just Washington and Lee's efficiency. You see the 6 shots, 3 of them on goal, but the 5 corners, I think that's the biggest difference to Lynchburg's 1. They've come out and they've been really attacking on offense, trying to get those opportunities, and it worked out with that goal in the early minutes of this one.
Now, Evan, if you're Coach Yeager coming out of the intermission, what needs to change to try and find that offensive production that we've grown so accustomed to seeing all season long?
Well, you got to direct a shot inside the rectangle, and obviously this is a Lynchburg team that is pretty even in terms of number of shots against this Generals crew. But as we said earlier, bigger matches mean fewer shots, and so you got to take advantage of those opportunities. And if Lynchburg has another ball rolling through the box like we saw Andres Romero came so close to capitalizing on, you got to make sure you convert.
Still no signs of William Casey. He was questionable coming into this one with a high ankle sprain. Suffered in the semifinal against Bridgewater. He is most likely out for the remainder of this contest. But if you're Lynchburg, I guess the mentality is you want to keep him healthy for NCAA tournament play, because this is a Hornet squad that is practically a lock for the NCAA tournament.
And that's why that regular season play is so important. You think about the neutral site games, when you're playing tough opponents, those early season tournaments, it all culminates to this moment. And Lynchburg has the luxury of being able to go out there with whatever 11 they need and face this feisty WNL squad, but clearly they still want to go get this ODAC Championship game.
We saw a little bit of Escuso back there about midway through. They moved him back to his holding midfield position. And now Cristobal Massonet back in the back line where he finished out the first half. He's another one of those first years for Lynchburg that has had an excellent season. Pardon me, a sophomore for Lynchburg. We get things rolling. Back to Viscuso, scooped up with ease. The intensity has certainly not calmed down as we moved along, both on and off the pitch. Both squads well represented tonight. A physical brand of soccer on the field. Batted around, reversed over to Velasquez. Matthew Viscuso collects it. Tries to drop it out in front of Pask. Has his one tipped away. Torres recorrals and under the cleat of Evan Pask out of play.
Those are the types of unforced errors that are going to be really essential to clean up, because in the second half, possession could be the deciding factor in this one, and Lynchburg's going to have to make sure they get the lion's share of it.
Evan Pask surveying. Flips the field over to Rouse. Dish down low to Andres Romero, trying to play it out in front for himself. Ball tangled up. Recollected by Rouse. Massonet for Velasquez. Quick passing from this Lynchburg offense. Pass went tumbling, but got it to Lopez Correas. Now dancing inside the 18. The cross, nobody was home. Brilliance right there from Lopez Correas as he created an open window and tried to fit that one in a shoebox. He did thread the needle, but just couldn't find a black jersey.
Yeah, beautiful pass. And Andres Romero was just a few steps away from having a look at that one, but nonetheless, credit to the Generals. Another tough spot they were put in by this Lynchburg offense. Washington Elite able to stop it and regain possession.
We said that earlier today with Andres Romero being right there in the area code, and you feel like it's almost halfway between a cross and a shot for Lynchburg as they keep it low to the ground. Want to make sure you keep finding the box.
You guys are exactly right. This is a Lynchburg team that has had so many great chances but almost isn't going to cut it. And as my dad used to always tell me growing up, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades.
Didn't hear soccer on the list. So.
No, sir. Take another look at that last sequence out of play. It'll be a free kick for the Hornets in their offensive zone. Pask looking for the head of Wiley. Bodies hit the floor. And a goal kick awarded to Will Joseph and the Washington and Lee Generals.
I like what you said opening back up the second half, Joe. The intensity has absolutely not died down. Both of these teams are still playing at a super high level. And you walked outside just during the halftime break, and you can see the tension kind of mounting on both sides. Lynchburg fans, Washington Lee fans alike. Still not sure how this one's going to be decided, but the boys on the field are giving it all they got for both sides.
You know, and also a quick little tidbit for both teams' starting lineups tonight. What I thought was so fascinating is you have 9 different states represented in Washington and Lee's starting 11. You just have 2 for Lynchburg's, consisting of Virginia and North Carolina. Also the inclusion of Lopez Correas, Andres Romero from Quimistan, Santa Barbara.
Tell you what, though, I mean, that's the recruiting pool the WNL aims for. They go outside of Virginia, but the talent is here as well. And even getting those guys to play together this summer with LFC, we talked about it here in the Hill City. Doesn't matter how you get them here, but make sure that it's a group that is tight-knit.
Velasquez with a little bit of a hesitation right there. Now he winds and fires, center of the box. Tracked down by Lopez Correas. Plays it back inside the rectangle. And finds the foot of Velasquez. Sky high, he took a hard hit. This one called against Caba.
And Velasquez doesn't take many of those. That's just a pointless foul away from the cross, because now all of a sudden Lynchburg is in such a dangerous area. And as you watch, he just left that leg up a little too long.
Pask ignites the set piece. The cross, the header is through! The equalizer! Keaton Napier! The Lynchburg Hornets come out into the second half standing on business.
We just talked about it. You can't beat yourselves in a game like this. Washington and Lee with a foul that probably wasn't the smartest decision of the whole game. And Lynchburg, if you let them linger around, the set-piece deliveries will find you. Benji Velasquez earns the foul. Evan Pask distributes. Keaton Napier seals the deal.
How about this, Joe? You talk about a recruiting class, but this time it's the senior Lynchburg native coming through for the Hornets in a huge spot.
You couldn't draw it up any prettier. And it all comes from that penalty. You talk about the pointless foul. That's when it really comes back to bite you. And we saw this, against Lynchburg in the quarterfinal where they committed a very similar kind of foul that resulted in that own goal.
For a pair of offensive powerhouses, isn't it fitting that it's defensive miscues today to put goals on the board, because we haven't necessarily seen that $1 million strike. Neither team has needed it, but now we're knotted up early in the second half. Just a dream scenario for Lynchburg.
Well, I'll tell you what, whatever Coach Yeager said to this Lynchburg team in the locker room, I might need to hear every morning before I get out of bed.
That's right, put it on a podcast.
Torres in the corner trying to keep it in play. Nice heads-up move off the shins of a WNL defender.
And what's so impressive is we talked about it earlier. Once this Lynchburg offense finds that spark, they can go. They find that momentum, and they continue to build on it. And it feels like after that goal, the momentum here at Schellenberger completely flipped. Washington and Lee had all the energy, all the momentum. Now the Hornet fans are alive, the sidelines alive, and the players on the field are playing for their season.
It'll be Pask once again with a set piece from the corner. Ping-ponged around. Lopez Correas loses his footing, but Massanet recovers it. Back out wide to Pask. The header. Oh, my goodness. Matthew Viscuso. Lightning almost struck twice.
I almost wonder if he lets that ball thread through to Andres Romero, if that's in the back of the net right now, because Lynchburg had two converging towards the box, and all you got to do is get ahead on it. I like that aggression from Lynchburg. They're clearly not content with keeping this game tied.
I mean, can you blame Viscuso, though, for taking his stab at it? I mean,
Not
a
at
very
all.
clean look. And narrowly misses the cage.
And that's where Lynchburg has been so dangerous at. Those second opportunities when you just got guys lingering in the right spot at the right time, you get across there and a chance at, like you said, Joe, a wide open cage.
And to go back to it, one play in this game that really feels like it could be the play of the game was Viscuso's save on what was almost an own goal. I mean, that would have completely changed the trajectory of this one. Lopez Correas taken down hard, right on the fringe of the 18. A yellow card will be awarded. We'll see if that was in or out. It looks like it was just a tick outside. That's where they'll draw it.
That's tricky, and it looks like that's where the foul originates. WNL obviously catching a break as we'll get another look at it. But you love the quick passing from Lynchburg, and it was just on the wrong side of the line.
"12 inches outside the rectangle. It's Evan Pask. The red shirt sophomore with the right foot. Looking upstairs, strong, back on the head. Ball still free. Massanet inside. A fight for the loose ball. Anyone's. Keaton Napier on top of it. Keaton Napier! Lightning strikes twice! The Lynchburg Hornets out in front. 2-1.
How about the hometown kid on the doorstep? You wait for a moment your entire career. Right down the street from EC Glass on the hill. He has put Lynchburg in the driver's seat.
And you talk about things happening fast. How about this response? Coming out less than 10 minutes from down 0-1 to up 2-1, and here's a shot at this.
Keaton Napier, how do you do?
It's nothing special either. It's the scrums, the 50-50s we've talked about the entire evening. Who's going to come out with the last kick? Right now, Lynchburg has the final word as it stands to go up 2-1.
And the Lynchburg native putting the whole city on his back tonight.
Keaton Napier with 2 goals in under 3 minutes. And the Hornets don't look like they're trying to slow it down. Andres Romero pushing the tempo. Physical play all over him like bark on a tree. Able to escape the straitjacket, tangled up on the far sideline, and a whistle. We'll see which way this is going to go. Washington believes it's their ball.
Tell you, a couple
And it
hundred
is.
Hornets think they have it as well, and that's the student section impact we've talked about all game. We said WNL was vocal to get things started. Well, how about the kids on the far side?
Another big collision. This time it's Seifa and Massanet, and the Generals continue to march forward.
And you feel the energy just circling around Schellenberger. This almost feels like it's been played for the national title.
I mean, these are two teams that have the capability and the firepower to make that kind of run in the NCAA tournament. We saw it a year ago with this Washington and Lee squad. Now a set piece for the Generals. Played into the box. Off ahead. Massonet fighting Seifa for it. A touch from Viscuso to get it out of harm's way. And Andres Romero sends it sky high to allow everybody to reset. This game has completely turned on its head. The intensity level that has been brought out of the locker room for these first 10 minutes of action is like anything we saw in the first half.
And you're seeing it just gradually build, the physicality gradually building as well. I mean, we still got 35 minutes to play, and these boys are playing like it's the final 90 seconds.
Lopez Correas downfield for Wiley. Apostolou there to avoid the dangerous transition opportunity. Sent deep by Joseph. He's got a whole lot of juice behind those kicks. Almost every time it's in between midfield and the box.
Want to draw attention to Keaton Napier as well, because we've talked about the Hornets, who haven't necessarily been the main contributors. It's been by committee. He had just 2 goals coming into this contest. To put 2 in the biggest spot of the season in the net, that's something that Lynchburg needs in the NCAA tournament. It's the identity that anybody can be in the moment.
And it's not like they were just on the doorstep with wide open goal. I mean, this guy's finding angles on those 2 goals. That makes it look like he scored 20 of them this season.
I think the biggest difference maker for Keaton Napier throughout his senior season was shaving his head. It seems like ever since that, he has found another gear.
Telling you, the superstitions of sports, it goes down a really long, windy path.
He's taking the Luke Mega look and a little bit of the similar play style tonight as well.
Tell you, Luke Mega was one of those game-winning goals to clinch an ODAC title a few years back, and All-American at the end of the season. You need some heroics.
Viscuso snares it off one hop. He'll send everybody deep. Looking to deposit on W&L's side of the field. Nice touch from Pask. Controls with ease. Back for Rouse. And those are the small things that a keeper can do that really just doesn't stand out on the stat sheet but can have such an impact on the game. Both of these keepers have done an excellent job with goal kicks, finding their men downfield.
It starts with communication, too. And we're not just talking on the field, but before the game, throughout the season, making sure you have that chemistry to know when and where. And you feel like as the season goes on to the most crucial parts of it, you're going to be ready to roll.
Andres Romero to the sideline. Real Silva will take his place. Short throw in for Rouse, over for Lopez Correas. Real Silva making his presence known right away. We'll get stoppage as the general is still down. That looks to be Arrowwood, the first-year defender out of Durham, North Carolina. And the general student section making some noise. Well represented tonight. This might be one of the best opposing student sections we've seen outside of Randolph in some time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going 3 rows deep. Down in front of us all the way over to the far end of the bleachers.
On your screen, you just got to look at the Lynchburg student section, which certainly filled to capacity tonight. Couches, chairs, you name it. All the amenities brought out.
And you got fans, 3rd story of Westover dorms over there hanging out, having a good time.
The great news about having your student section on a track is I don't think you can hit a capacity crowd. There's always enough space for somebody else.
Always standing room.
That's right.
That's all there is. Unless it's BYOS A Hail Mary of a kick from Lynchburg.
Tell you, it might be bring your own seed on the track, but it's been bring your own speed for Lynchburg this year, and they have accelerated forward in this second half. You think about how they have gotten this momentum. It starts outside, and Keaton Napier was at the right spot, but the reason Andres Romero and so many of these wingers get credit heading to the sideline is because they have just continued to put the pressure on this W&L back line.
Torres looking to go out wide for pass. Put his head up, took his eyes off the ball and lost it. You want to talk about speed? That man Isaac Torres has certainly got some wheels. He can fly in four-wheel drive.
Doesn't it feel like his presence is going to be punctuated too without Casey today?
Real silver for Colby Wilson. Had it ricochet off the face and into a general. Real Silva is going to get a yellow.
That goes back to the last call as well. I think the referee had a talk. He said, you know what, if we have a little more contact, the card's going to come out.
You know, and as the intensity and aggressive nature starts to rear its head on the pitch, it does oftentimes fall in the hands of the official to start giving out a couple of warnings to try and limit that.
How much is too much as well? Because in a game like this, obviously the contact is going to be a little bit worse at the end of the game, and so the referee may be trying to just stay a step ahead, make sure nothing gets out of hand.
You know, everybody's got their opinions. I certainly have mine. I'm a fan of aggressive soccer. It's a contact sport. But you're right, there is a fine line. You don't want it to take away from the pretty and beautiful nature of the sport.
And especially when you have the postseason ranging forward past this game, right? You know, this isn't the NCAA championship as much as it's felt like it. You want to make sure that everyone is safe and ready to play in a week.
I can tell you this, though. The rivalry between these two squads, it definitely feels like an NCAA tournament or championship game.
No doubt.
Off the head of Torres. Into the lap of Willie Hall. The goal scorer today for Washington and Lee in the early goings of this contest.
I like what you said, Joe. I mean, who's to say that one of these teams gets an at-large bid, they flip sides of the bracket? We see this as a national title game.
I hope so. I really do. I mean, that would not be just great for these two teams, but also the ODAC, a conference that right now is looking like for sure you got two in. And a chance for three, and if there's some real chaos and Virginia Wesleyan still sneaks in, you have four ODAC schools in the mix.
In recent years, we've seen a lot of other sports have that publicity, like basketball, but to see the soccer side do it is impressive.
Keaton Napier took a swing at it, out for Velasquez, across the cage. Snatched up by Will Joseph. And obviously the NESCAC really sits atop the power rankings, if you will, in Division III men's soccer just by conferences. But, I mean, you have a lot of other conferences, the ODAC included, that are starting to give them a run for their money.
I'm telling you, if you get one of these ODAC teams kind of where Washington and Lee was able to make it to last year, we saw it then, and obviously I'm a little ODAC biased. The fans are going to travel. The energy will be there.
I think everybody, no matter who you're rooting for, that's either in attendance tonight or on the stream with us tonight, most likely has a little bit of that ODAC bias.
That's the best part about a conference tournament, too, because you recognize, you know, you might not love if the other teams are the ones making those runs in the postseason, but you do know if those teams are good that you're playing throughout the year, you're likely helping your standing in the NPI discussion.
Well, and I think that if you, from 3 months from now, if you talk to either one of these head coaches not in the heat of the battle or in the heat of the moment, they're going to tell you how much respect they have for the other program, because that's the staple. These two teams have pushed each other to new heights, and it's what's gotten the ODAC to where it is in men's soccer.
Absolutely, and there's a whole lot of cross connections as well. I mean, even on Lynchburg's side, you got Yeager, who's a Virginia Wesleyan alum, and has had a whole lot to say about that program, and obviously I've gotten a whole lot of chances to talk to him this season, more so than W&L, just based on being a broadcaster here at Lynchburg, and every single time I have a whole lot of respect for that coach. this is a great program, and always great things to say about the conference. Nevertheless, a couple of substitutions for both sides. Sanchez back in for the Generals. Cruz and DiLorenzo look like, yes, that is correct, entered for Lynchburg. Looking for the striker, Wilson. Chasing it down the near sideline. Cuts it back towards midfield. Beautiful ball for DiLorenzo, but just a smidge offline. Rolls out of play, and a throw in now for Trey Peterson. Long ball, far side of the field. Massonet hits it out of play. Do you guys know what those horns are called? I keep seeing these long tube horns.
Been in the market for a new alarm clock. I need to figure it out.
I'll tell you, they make quite some noise. It is loud, and you know they're here. But there's every bit of 10 or 15 of them in the crowd tonight.
Viscuso right in front of it.
Tell you what, it's so impressive to watch Thomas Viscuso work because his height sometimes doesn't exactly appear on your screen, but as he goes up the ladder, he can almost overplay some of those lofted balls and make sure that he gets out and punches it away or grasps it like that time.
To digress really quickly, our production crew on top of it tonight. Vuvuzela. It's a Vuvuzela horn.
Wow.
I have never been the owner of one, but I might need to invest. Andres Romero and Fisher Daniel into the contest for the Hornets.
We need the pronunciation guide for that one. If that was on the roster, I'm getting a little nervous.
And while we got a second, just for the stoppage of play, I like what you said about the production crew. I mean, these guys have been killing it all day. 3 games back to back to back. Can't say enough about the guys and girls here at LHSN doing an amazing job all season.
DiLorenzo. The cross. Ping-ponged around outside of the rectangle. Played forward by Napier. Cruz with possession. Back over for Napier, and Reed Rouse will slow the tempo. And also just a tip of our cap to Washington and Lee. They've got a great production over there as well. A big fan of their whole program. It'll be a throw-in for the Hornets. Just in front of midfield.
And you know these days are going to be busy in the fall. You got winter sports starting, fall sports. You hope they prolong their postseason, and it's just been so special to see, especially with these two programs, to recognize, you know, it's only getting better in the ODAC. You're seeing national titles, and you just hope that trajectory is what we expect for the next 5 or 10 years.
What's wild is for Washington and Lee, for a while, it looked like a real possibility. You might have 4 team sports represented in the championship. Obviously, that fell a little bit short after Shenandoah with some late game heroics in that field hockey semifinal. But nevertheless, women's volleyball right around the corner as well. Both of these programs will be in the mix there.
They already captured cross-country titles on the men and women's sides for the first time since 2019. And, you know, you're always talking about the discussions of, you know, the rankings that don't just take 1 or 2 sports into factor, but everybody. And WNL perennially up there with the top of Division III.
Beautiful part of the world.
Absolutely.
You ever been to Las Vegas?
Not yet. I've been once. I'll tell you what, though. It's a great campus. And, you know, we're not just saying that to pay respect on the ODAC streams. It's always cool.
I'm a big fan of WNL.
That's right. Got VMI right across the street.
Played out of bounds. It'll be in throw-in for Jack Travis. Or rather, hands it off to Kuig. Gives himself a little bit of real estate to wind and fire here. At the midway mark of half number 2. Kuig inside the 18. Ball's free. Kicked out by Velasquez. Fish trying to track it down. It's there in the nick of time.
Yeah, that is absolutely incredible effort. A play that looked like from up here it was just going to be a dead ball, reset it.
Keaton Napier streaking in, takes possession. Torres back for Velasquez. A little bit of misdirection.
This Lynchburg back line is going to be critical to success at this point in the game, and that's why those 2 early goals in the second half were so important, because the Hornets' identity here in the last few years has been just the stellar backline play. And when you can rely on that and you're ahead, then you got a really firm advantage.
You know, we gave a shout out to our production crew. We have our on-field cameraman chasing down balls at this point. Grayson Howe with a little bit of a hustle play.
Yeah, I really don't know what that guy can't do. I mean, he's been a jack of all trades.
Peterson towards midfield. A lot of contact, no whistle. Viscuso streaking towards the box. Di Lorenzo out wide doing some dancing. A battle for the Pearl. Won by Washington and Lee. Lynchburg up in arms that they didn't get a call. I think we're back to that physical brand.
Goes back to what you said even earlier in that sequence. You said, you know, a line of contact, no foul issued, and if it's going to be consistent, you like it at this stage. Let the guys go out there and play a little bit, because the energy in these final 20 minutes, it's just going to be sensational.
And once again, we're just going to continue to harp on this, because if you're just tuning in and you see some contact like that, you might be up in arms and say, where's the whistle? But it has been as consistent as you can ask for in such a high-pressure game. This officiating crew has been outstanding tonight.
Well, I can promise you, if you're just tuning in, the last thing you need to worry about from this game is the whistles. I mean, there's been all kinds of dramatics going on in this game. It has been a barn burner.
Keaton Napier with both goals for Lynchburg. They were separated by no more than 3 minutes. Back-to-back scores for Lynchburg after heading to the locker room down by a goal after Willie Hall opened us up with an early one for Washington and Lee. Joseph downfield. Off the head of Viscuso. Once more off Di Lorenzo. Collected by the Generals. Nice tackle. A good hustle to stay with it as Matthew Jenkins followed it all the way.
Well, Joe, don't want to go into the broadcaster's jinx, but when was the last time we saw the Generals have a legitimate scoring opportunity? It feels like since those 2 goals, Lynchburg has taken that window.
Fisher Daniel for Di Lorenzo. Another chance for Lynchburg. He lost the handle. Well, you're exactly right, Evan. I mean, it has been some time since Washington and Lee has gotten it in to Lynchburg's box and had a great chance to score. Here's another opportunity for Lynchburg. It's Torres on the end line. Inside the box for Rodriguez. Poked away, but a corner kick now upcoming for the Hornets.
And it seems like, just to kind of put a pin in what you guys are saying, that this game feels like it's been the epitome of the season. A little bit of a slow start. They've had some areas to work on. They came out of the halftime break in the second half absolutely flying. They've been menaces on defense. They've capitalized on offense. It shows the progression that this team has made throughout this season, and it's paying off here with some 18 and a half minutes to play.
Washington and Lee has not recorded a shot in the second half, while Lynchburg has tagged 4, 2 of which have gone through. A corner kick. Up high. And off the knee of Di Lorenzo.
Well, guess how many shots on goal Lynchburg has had in the half? They've had 2, and they both found the back of the net. And so you just think about these opportunities as you continue going through this game. Those are the ones that are really going to make sure that you get that ODAC title. As we said, it's about capitalizing in that moment, and the Hornets really found their footing.
And that was the big thing in the first half. They had a couple of chances that they kind of squandered. They got in front of themselves and really took away their own chances. They cleaned those things up. Like you said, Joe, I'm not sure what Coach Yeager said at halftime, but it ignited these boys to come out and play their brand of soccer. And right now, it's got them out front.
Jenkins draws the whistle. Willie Hall, quick pass over to Apostolou. His entry feed into the breadbasket of Viscuso. That's about as easy as you'll see him come for Thomas Viscuso.
As a goalie, you got to stay on your toes as well because you never know when that one shot is going to strike for W&L. And so if they get out on the break, make sure you're communicating with that back line. But so far, it's been a stellar second half.
Torres takes away Peterson's pass. Two-man game with Torres and Di Lorenzo. Gets tackled to the turf. Whistle on Jack Travis.
How composed was that footwork as well? It starts with Torres, Di Lorenzo right there as well. And even though they're 3 or 4 foot passes, they're so crisp.
Yeah, I mean, that two-man game was absolute picture perfect from the Hornets.
Viscuso testing Joseph. Carried to his left. Reeled it in with ease. Just over 16 minutes to go in our ODAC Championship final. Pass laid out in front for Andres Romero, too much on it. 3 substitutions for Lynchburg, Napier, Wiley, and Pask. Kaba alongside Zion in for the Generals. It's Jenkins and Travis that head to the sideline for W&L. Daniel Di Lorenzo and Rodriguez out for Lynchburg. Take away Chris Wiley. As it's stripped right back. A slide tackle from behind. Lynchburg doesn't like the call, but it seems like the right one.
Well, the worst thing you can do, especially as defenders, is commit a turnover going backwards because then you're just allowing that attack to inch forward, and W&L almost got caught napping in that department, but now they're going to have a goal kick and just trying to get everybody in that attacking third.
Joseph sends everybody downfield. On a rope, near side, Kaba, played back for Peterson. Kaba once again. Up top, Travis. Into the rectangle. Batted around. It seemed like Zion had a good look at it, just couldn't turn it into anything.
And a beautiful job from the Lynchburg defense. You talked about Washington and Lee, rather, not having many opportunities. Clearly their best opportunity in the second half, and it looks like just kind of got in their own way a little bit there. A little miscommunication, out of position. Credit Lynchburg defense, forcing an errant shot.
W&L and Lynchburg at midfield. Viscuso trying to get out of the straitjacket. And out of play. Another goal kick for Viscuso. That clock, Lynchburg's best friend at this stage of the game. That sense of urgency will only start to rise for the Generals. A nice heads-up play from the officiating crew to stop the clock right there as ball got away from Viscuso.
Joe, you think about at this point in the season, a lot of the statistics have been pretty firm. And home field advantage is one in particular where it doesn't matter until you make it matter. Lynchburg has certainly made sure it's a relevant stat. 9-0-0 at home this year. And in a game like this with all the energy on the sideline, you just got to feel like that second half surge is a big product of everybody else here in the stadium.
Lopez Correas battling for positioning. Connects with Andres Romero, who draws a whistle. The best thing for Lynchburg is that clock continues to tick, 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 tick.
You always got to make sure that you're patient and allowing that clock to work for you, but you also don't want that to change the pace on the field, because when you start slowing things down, you're getting further and further away from how you operate as a team.
Pass into the box, played out by Washington and Lee. Seifa tangled up, hits the deck hard, and gets the call. Once again, Joseph will gallop forward, send everybody downfield. Joseph, a sky-high long ball to the top of the box. Matthew Jenkins back into the contest. He'll take the place of Willie Hall.
Gentlemen, you think about the regular season and how we talked about so many different teams being in contention, but doesn't it feel like we've got the two best ODAC teams on this field? The way that they've really made responses throughout this game, and I mean, Lynchburg had to fight going down early, but they have certainly looked polished in this second 45 minutes.
And Ricardo Sanchez will actually now come out. Washington Lee had 12 players out there for a brief second. A miscommunication. It looked like Jenkins went and tagged Hall to take him out, and Hall had no intentions of exiting the game. Or it might have been a different message. You just forgot to get the right guy.
As I say, he was like, there's 11 minutes left in an ODAC championship. I'm the one hitting the sideline. I think everybody wants to be in the game at this stage.
Here's Zion. Nowhere to go. Keaton Napier, a blanket.
That's just stellar because it doesn't require physicality. You don't have to do too much. He's just letting him know he's right there on his hip. And as an attacker, you got to make sure you're directing this to the goal, because the longer that this game goes on, those sidelines are going to be your biggest enemy.
Lynchburg maintains possession on Washington and Lee's half of the field. Another set piece. It'll be taken by a young Viscuso. Matthew will most likely look to go across the box here. Orchestrating traffic. Far side of the box. Over the head of Massanet and Andres Romero and out of play. 9.5 remaining.
Something's got to change for the Generals, because it feels like it's been such a pedestrian pace here in these last 15 minutes. And, you know, we saw one decent chance as they got closer to the box, but it still wasn't directed on frame. And, you know, for this midfield, it's all about winning those 50-50s, making sure that you can have possession.
Well, it is absolutely incredible how the script is somewhat flipped. I mean, Washington and Lee got the early goal in the first half, and then they went in total control mode. It felt like with possession and with everything Lynchburg tried to do offensively. Coming out of halftime, it has been all Lynchburg for almost all 45.
Oh, my goodness. Torres just shot that one out of play. It went and hit Yeager on the sideline. And that might have been the biggest assist from Yeager all night, because that could have very well been a delayed game if that ball doesn't bounce right back.
That's very true. And at this point of the game especially, the referee's eyes are really looking at that part of the game.
Inside the 18, off one head, charged in by Viscuso. And once again, the veteran keeper secures it cleanly. This ball has just lived in the midfield since about the 25-minute mark. And that's clearly going to favor the team leading by 1. Washington and Lee desperately trying to get it inside the box and find a clean possession.
Well, as we said earlier, Lynchburg trying to get its first win of the season when trailing at the half, and this resurgence was spearheaded by the first few minutes of the second 45. They were just constantly pressing, and this defense has shown up at a big spot again, but set pieces are going to be a big issue. Got to defend them.
A Hornet hit the deck hard. That looks like Torres, who's now gingerly trotting to his post.
Yeah, just to kind of go along with you, Gates, I mean, Lynchburg come out of the half just like they were unfazed by the first 45 minutes, like it didn't happen. And obviously, as a coach, that's probably part of your message, but it's so hard as a player, you know, when things don't go your way the entire first half, you don't get a chance. You come out and you battle back like nothing happened. Now all of a sudden you find yourself 7 minutes away from an improbable comeback 45 minutes ago.
If you're going to concede a goal, you probably hope it's in the first 10 minutes because that allows you to kind of read the rest of the script, figure out how to do it. You don't have to change your style of play on a dime.
More fresh legs for the Hornets. Andres Romero and Wiley head to the bench. Real Silva and Colby Wilson back in. I think that's been one thing that has been a big benefit for Lynchburg, not only in this game but all season long. It's just the depth that they have in the forward and midfield lines. They have been running around all night long, high level of intensity.
Goes back to the newcomers as well. Doesn't matter what class. Sports don't necessarily know age, and you feel like, you know, while there are veterans out there who are the seniors and the grad students, it's all about that championship experience. Having this game is going to help everybody on both teams.
Massonet with a nice pair of headers, but falls in the lap of Peterson. Pushed forward for Jenkins. And sent out of play. Kuig trying to push everybody inside the box. Kuig's heave finds its way to Torres. Back out for Hall. Puts it right back into the rectangle. Lopez Correas. A nice pair of touches for Wilson. Streaking downfield. The sophomore taken down. He has been heavily frustrated tonight.
Well, now is a dangerous part of the game because you're seeing these counterattacks left and right. When W&L sends everybody forward, that's going to be the product of it. Lynchburg gets down the other side. Looks like he took a little bit of a tumble before the encounter, but you just got to live with the calls at this point inside the final 5 minutes.
I think that's the right no call. I just think that Wilson has had a tough time dealing with the physical contact tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to think about the moment. Less than 5 minutes left in a conference championship game. Kudos to the refs, like you said.
A dangerous sequence. Viscuso collects the loose ball, hits the turf. Both parties unhappy. It seems like W&L really wants the clock to stop.
Well, that was a collision with the Viscuso brothers, both on impact. And what was so impressive is the way that Matthew gets in and stays between the defender and his brother goalkeeper, because at that point, if the Generals are on the doorstep, there's no telling how they can get this goal and the equalizer.
That what they call a little bit of brotherly love between those two?
I think if they win the ODAC title, they won't mind that one too much.
Under 4 minutes to go. The Generals have been kept quiet since their goal in the opening 10 minutes of action. Jenkins over for Peterson. Breaks down pass. Dishes over for Hall. And Massonet gets it out of the 18.
I think that was a pass too many for the Generals.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that possession was everything you could want on the offensive end. Like you said, maybe a pass too many or maybe just better defense.
Colby Wilson now with possession. Looking for Real Silva. Those two can't connect, and it seems like a Lynchburg Hornet is down. That is most likely Massonet. Training staff will head to the far side of the field and make sure he's all good. He had another hefty collision, one of many that we've seen tonight.
Looked like the defender just met him at the summit of his ascent, and that's not what you want to see here at the end of the game, but W&L is going to use this to huddle up and figure out what these final 180 seconds look like, because you've got to make sure if the ball gets down to Lynchburg's side of the field any way you can. If it's fouls, if it's doing any maneuver to get the ball back, you got to bring out all the stops.
It seems like this Lynchburg crowd's having a good time.
Shout out to our man Grayson Howe, hyping him up, getting him into it.
One hand on the camera, one hand up in the air, trying to bring everybody to their feet.
It hasn't taken much on this Saturday night because the energy's been there the entire way, and I mean, you just feel like this is what you prep for all season long if you're Lynchburg, to be in a spot where you can defend the title. You're ahead. All you got to do is play 3 flawless minutes, and that championship is yours.
And as much as going on the field, these fan bases have not blinked. You've heard the drum and the horns all night from the W&L side. You've heard the cheers and the plastic hand clappers on the Lynchburg side. I mean, it has been fun here on Shallow
We're talking about the cameraman who's not affiliated with either school. He's a Liberty kid.
Care less what happens in this one.
Everybody's into it. I mean, the intensity level, this is one of the best atmospheres that you could ask for. It has been such a treat to be here tonight. And we've still got 3 minutes and potentially more to still be played as you see Coach Yeager directing traffic.
Well, he was halfway on the field trying to make sure everybody's in the right spot. Eric Vasquez enters this match as Massonet comes out. Massonet has been so crucial on that back line. You talk about the size, trying to replace a Will Casey for a game like this. He has been instrumental.
Peterson near sideline. Pushes downfield. Zion. The Generals starting to find a little bit of an offensive rhythm. But can they capitalize? Kuig. Center of the box, Viscuso right there.
How about that? I mean, Viscuso coming out of a sea of bodies and rising up. You mentioned his hops a little bit earlier, getting above the crowd that time.
That was great offense, just better defense by Viscuso. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better throw-in. And you had Seifa right there waiting for it.
Now, if you're Lynchburg, it's all about getting to the corner and using these throw-ins. You know, you can obviously milk the clock a little bit, but possession is your best friend as Massonet comes back into this game. You got 2 minutes now, and slowly the Generals are just recognizing they might only have one more chance to try and course correct.
Lynchburg's got 1 too many on the field. The clock is stopped, so there's no real sense of urgency right now for either party. Vasquez will be the man to come out. I don't know if he's gotten the memo yet. There we go. Now he heads to the sideline.
I'm telling you, both teams today with 12 out there, and I mean, that just shows how locked in everybody is.
Yeah, it's just like you said, Gates. ODAC Championship, 2 minutes to go. I don't think anybody is flinching to come off of the pitch at this point.
Reed Rouse Evading traffic. Kicked out of play. It'll stay with the Hornets.
And if you're Lynchburg, you'll take a minute 50 of that right there, slowing things down, controlling that possession, doing everything you can to keep it on this side of midfield.
W&L takes over. 90 seconds remaining. Down by 1. Now's the time for late game heroics.
If there's ever a feeling and an atmosphere for it.
And that's a big turnover.
The problem right now for W&L is that the Hornets have everybody on that sideline standing on their feet. You feel like that's where this game could live, right along the touchline.
Colby Wilson sends it out wide for Reed Rouse. Keaton Napier right back over to Real Silva. Generals with possession, but can they hold on to it? Jenkins taken down hard. That'll be an easy call for our officiating crew. Clock stops with 41 ticks remaining. And a yellow card given out as well.
This is exactly what W&L needs because they have the set piece to send everybody forward. It's almost like punting in football. Get everybody in that mix and never know what's going to happen with the deflection.
And with all the moments we've seen this season, 41 seconds remaining to decide a champion.
Will Joseph, far side of the box. Still up in the air. Finds the turf at the foot of Seifa. His cross deflected. Still with it. A centering feed kicked out by the young Viscuso. A throw-in with 20 seconds to go. Everybody inside. Will Joseph out of the cage, into the box. The corner kick with 10 ticks remaining. At the top, out wide, with 4, with 3, with 2, for the 20th time in program history, the Lynchburg Hornets are ODAC champions. Keaton Napier, the hometown hero, as the Hornets conquer the mountain once again, this time in the Hill City.
Comes down to the final seconds of the ODAC Championship. We had our hand on the hole puncher, and Lynchburg is dancing again. Their ticket sealed to the NCAA tournament in a rivalry game we knew would have all the antics. Look at the scene on Schellenberger Field. If you want to know what this game meant to so many Hornets fans, you got it right here at home.
What a game it was, and for the first 45, this was a back-and-forth battle after a defensive lapse from Lynchburg, playing without one of their star defensive backs. The ability to come back out of the break and have Keaton Napier notch 2 goals in a matter of minutes ultimately just completely turn this game on its head.
It's exactly what we've expected from this team this year. I don't know if it's necessarily fair to expect that level of play from a team, but they just continue to keep proving it, that they belong in that conversation. They are a top 10 team in Division III, and the way that they handle business, that goes back to the coaching staff.
And what a night this has to be for Keaton Napier. The local kid went to EC Glass, no more than 2 minutes down the road from the University of Lynchburg. Someone that took on a major leadership role for this year's group.
Absolutely, and 2 goals coming into this game all season, and he knocks in the 2 winning goals for Lynchburg here tonight.
Guys, I just want to point our attention to the sideline and how many other teams are out here for Lynchburg. It would have been the same at W&L. I mean, that's the ODAC culture. But this Lynchburg team recognizes there's something special on the field. There's something special in the air around campus to get 2 ODAC titles on the same day. I think it's just that environment that you love to see.
And now you just hope that Washington and Lee did enough this season to prove that they are worth an at-large bid in the NCAA tournament. I mean, just at looking at what they've done, we talked about those first 5 games where they went 0-2-3. Since then, this has been an elite team at the Division III level, and I can't imagine a world where they don't have a seat at the table, but at this point, it's up to the committee.
Yeah, absolutely, and obviously we don't have a voice for the committee, but I think the three of us can strongly agree this Washington Elite team is one of the best teams in the country. I think the matchup that we just watched tonight it's a battle of, I mean, I would argue top 10 teams in this country.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys, both teams are just absolutely phenomenal, and if Washington and Lee doesn't get a bid, I think it would be an injustice. They absolutely are deserving of one. They are a championship caliber team. A celebration from Napier.
I mean, this is a team that since September 7th has only lost 2 games, both of which were to Lynchburg.
So, yeah, what's even more impressive, this Lynchburg team has lost 1 team from coast to coast. And you recognize if there's 3 losses between these 2 teams before today, I mean, that just shows the prowess that you've got on the conference scale. And, I mean, that's why this part of the year is so exciting, because turn your eyes to the next few weeks. We're going to have a long postseason.
If you couldn't pick up on the chant that the boys in red and black were chanting, it was Keto, Keto, Keto for Keaton Napier. The award ceremony upcoming, where Lynchburg will be crowned as the 2025 ODAC Tournament champions, along with our all-tournament teams, will be announced. Before we head to that, final thoughts from Schellenberger Field.
You really hope this isn't the last game on Shelley this year. The NCAA tournament coming up. I mean, Lynchburg has hosted the last 2 years, and it's just a special feel for a special team. They get it once again over WNL, and, I mean, it took a big-time performance from Keaton Napier, but it's exactly what you expect from these Hornet squads.
With that, we will step aside and allow our crowd mic to do the remainder of the talking for the broadcast. Championship ceremony coming up, along with all tournament teams being announced. From the Hill City, thank you so much for joining us on your Saturday night. Until next time, so long and have a good one.
First, let's recognize those that are not in attendance today. From Bridgewater, Zane Kowalski. From Washington and Lee. Number 1, Will Joseph. Number 12, Willie Hall. And number 15, Spencer Furman. And now our all-tournament team members from Lynchburg. Number 1, Thomas Viscuso. Number 5, Benji Velasquez. Number 10, Keaton Napier. And number 30, Matthew Viscuso. Let's give one more round of applause for these fine student athletes, your 2025 ODAC All-Tournament team. We applaud all competitors this soccer season, highlighted by today's outstanding champion. Championship contest. The Old Dominion Athletic Conference congratulates runner-up Washington and Lee on a great season. Concluding today's ODAC title game. And now for the presentation of the 2025 ODAC Championship Trophy. At this time, we ask Lynchburg captains and other team representatives to step forward and receive the championship trophy from Brad Benston and President Allison Lynchburg. The Hornets complete their season with a 17-1-2 overall record and capture their 20th league title. Lynchburg receives the ODAC's automatic bid into the NCAA Division III playoffs. Here they are, your 2025 ODAC champions, the Lynchburg Hornets. The University of Lynchburg and the Old Dominion Athletic Conference appreciate your support of this year's ODAC tournament and of Division III athletics. Thanks again and best wishes for a safe trip home.
That concludes our broadcast tonight from the Hill City. One final time, thank you so much for listening on behalf of myself, Evan Gates, Kevin Esther, JP Zapita, Jonas, Ethan Maratsky, our camera crew of Riley, Vito, Grayson, and Alex. Really a big treat to be able to bring you tonight's contest. Thank you so much, and until next time, thank you, and stay cool.